Hey, 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 welcome back to Goals and Greatness Podcast, your weekly dose of business banter, big ideas, epic fails, and the systems that make the dream work with your favorite duo, Kat and Lou.
Double the expertise, double the fun. I'm Lou, your navigator on this wild ride of risk-taking and rule-breaking.
And I'm Kat, your go-to guru for all things startup. Together, we're unzipping the secrets of success and taking you behind the scenes of our crazy world.
Whether you're a CEO in the making or you've just scribbled your first business plan on a napkin, we're here to fuel that fire and help you unleash your greatness to achieve those big, bold goals.
So entrepreneurs, visionaries, and everyone in between, get ready to join the ride with Kat and Lou. Let's turn up the volume and unleash your greatness. We're back. Goals and Greatness Unleashed, coming back at you with our third episode. And today's topic is building great teams. What up, Changsta? Oh, sorry, Lou.
What up?
I called you Changsta for so long. Y'all, just so you know, another nickname is Changsta, the original gangsta. That's how she saved in my phone.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I've had the same picture for your contact in my phone since like 2012, and it's from one of those going to war team meetings. You're all dressed up.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm ready. I'm ready to hear your thoughts, Lou. I'm excited to talk about this next couple of weeks, really diving into teams and culture and like how do we manage and retain talent. But let's talk about building great teams. You know, like where do we even start? Like when someone is starting their business and they're like, okay, like let's say they're ready, right? They're not going to do it all themselves. They're like, I'm ready to build a team. What do I do?
What, how, who?
What's the first step, right? Like, what's the first step to building a great team for your business? What would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like people ask us that a lot. You know, we've worked, I mean, just the nature of our business is that we're constantly building a team, or of the business we worked in together was constantly building a team. And I feel very proud that we've had amazing teams over, you know, the course of our time working together, but it definitely didn't come by chance or luck. It was strategic. There was a lot of things put into it that gave us, you know, that output. So yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring that today. And I think it all starts with, you know, your vision, right? Like what do you want your organization to look like? And I mean, you remember in our caps, we used to draw those organizational charts.
That's what I was gonna say.
Actually,
the good old
we used to draw them on
chart.
Keynote. Yeah, we used to draw them on Keynote before that PowerPoint. I mean, you always drew them though. So when you were thinking about like how many of each too, what went into putting together like an organizational chart?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, Lou, before 2007, it was just kind of like whoever I hired, I'm like, oh, I like them. Let me find a spot. You know, it was kind of like all over the place, scattered. And I think at that point, I was still doing so much on my own, even though I had a great group of people around me because I didn't have the structure, right? And so it was just, I was still feeling that like burnout of like trying to make sure everything was getting done because I hadn't actually sat and like organized it of what that ideal structure looked like. And so whatever company you're working with, all right, or whatever business you want to start, you know, once you're ready to go from solopreneur and you're like, all right, let's do this, you know, whether from the get-go, you're like, I'm not doing solo, or if you start on your own, which many of us do, and then build a team, you know, over time. I think that it's really important to really sit down and like you said, like have that, you know, that vision. But I remember for me, it came from that time. You've heard me say this a million times, but after 2007, I was the number one manager in our company for the year. We broke the all-time record. We broke it the quickest. You know, we had broken the national record by August, and we still had the fall to go. And I just hated my life. I was so tired. I was unhealthy as hell. Like I just looked like shit. And one of my mentors and great friends, Justin Donald, actually the lifestyle investor, if you listen to him on his podcast, I remember Justin looking at me as we were checking in to go to our hotel in Las Vegas. And he was just like, congratulating me. He's like, you've officially become, the #1 manager of all time in our company's history. He's like, keep it up. You're going to burn yourself to the ground. And I was like, huh? Right. And then he said to me, he's like, one of the things I said, well, what do you mean? And I chatted with him a bit and I'd asked him what he recommended. And he said, you need to sit down and think about your business as an actual CEO, right? Because a lot of times when someone first starts a business, out of school, like maybe give yourself that, but you're not thinking about it from a CEO standpoint, right? The CEO long term, all right. Obviously, when we're starting, we're everything. Have you seen that picture of like when Bezos started Amazon and he's like sitting like in his like it looks like, I don't know if it's a garage or an extra bedroom, and there's like Amazon like colored on the wall and papers, right? And so then he was everything. He was customer service. He was the CEO. He was, right. And that's cool. We're going to start there. But I don't think that Bezos said, let me build this company and let me be all the things. I want to be 20 different roles, right? But he had a vision of like what it was going to look like later. And so it's sitting down, Justin has said to me, sit down and put yourself, your CEO, cool. Think about how many people report to you. How many do you want? He's like, it could be 5, maybe all the department heads report directly to you. He's like, for me, which I copied his, he's like, I have a direct one under me and they're the one I pour into and work with and mentor. And then they have the departments heads that all report to them. And he's like, so look at your business and go, okay, what are the departments that I want to have, right? I have an advertising department. I have maybe that has 2 sub departments. Maybe it's social media, right? And like campus or whatever it might be. Then you have a recruiting, like a personnel department. And, that has, maybe there's a, development or this or that, like whatever it is, every company's different, right? But just really look at, if we had to look at the subcategories of things that have to happen in our business, what are these different departments? So instead of just like, oh, people that we're hiring, no, we're calling it a department because we want to build it out for them. We want someone that's leading that. They have assistant managers, they have employees. And again, that might not be this year, that might be the 10-year vision, right? But we want to know what that looks like as you start building, because when people see the possibilities, when people see the chance for advancement, like you were saying, we started on the PowerPoint, like, oh, wow, like you guys need that, or I could be that, or like that's available. Like that's exciting for people to have something to work towards and know that they're not starting a job where they're just kind of stuck at that position and they have to find something later, but to go, you know what, I like you, Mary Lou, and like I like what you're doing with this company, and holy crap, you have opportunities for in the future for this, or you're going to be looking for a head of marketing and a head of, people development, or a head of creative, a head of this. That's where I want to be ultimately. And now I have a vision for myself within your company to help me get there, which we'll talk more about, in future episodes. But that's a big thing that helped me initially go, oh, shoot, I've never done that, and I sat down and I'm like, what could this look like? Like if I waved a magic wand and I had the adult business, right, 10 years from now, and it's humming and I'm traveling the world with my family and everything's there, what is the infrastructure of the back end, right? What does that organizational chart look like? We have a CEO, we have a director of operations, we have a director of marketing, we have a director of sales, we have a director of creative, we have a, what is that? So sorry, my long-winded answer, but that is.
No, I like that though. I like the way you put that together, like having different departments. And I think that then you can ask yourself the question as a CEO and as a business owner, what are the things that you enjoy doing and that you feel like you can bring a lot of value to? And what are the things that maybe you're not so great at that somebody else could bring more value to your organization if they were fulfilling that role? Because, you can't look at everything and say, I'm going to be the best in every department, because that's just unrealistic.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you build your team, right? So that you can have people that fill the gaps for you. And like you said, you'll have this 10-year vision, but just knowing that it can be in phases too. Maybe
it will be at first. You have your departments and you're like, and I run this department and I run this one and this one and this one. Like you're running all of them. But you know what it's going to like, because again, I think that a lot of new entrepreneurs don't think about that because they're doing everything anyway. They're like, well, I'm doing it all right now. I don't have time for help. That's okay. You are going to do it all. You are going to lead all the departments, but do you know what departments you want to have? Do you know when
Right.
it's time to hire, what are the type of people and what type of qualities they're going to need in order to fill those seats? And so, yes, it is fine for you to do it all when you're starting, but know what it looks like in its later
Yeah.
stages, and be okay running
Yeah.
5 departments now, but know that there's 5 departments. It's not just my company and everything I have to do. It's like, okay, I'm running these 5 departments right now. How soon can I get help here and here and here?
Yeah. And if you have that vision from the beginning, it'll tie people in. I mean, and we'll talk a little bit more about this whenever it is that we get into retention. But I know, at least for me, when I was first joining your organization, that organizational chart, I saw it in my interview, I saw it in my first day of training, I saw it at every team meeting, and it really helped tie me back into the organization, into the vision, into the mission, which in turn helped keep me there longer. And
Mm-hmm.
I, really picked up on that skill and did that moving forward. Like, I remember when my first management position in your office was to be the recruiting manager, the receptionist
Mm-hmm.
manager. And I just literally copy and pasted our team meeting PowerPoint to create the receptionist interview, to create the receptionist team meeting. And I mean, I didn't know really how big you wanted that department, but I just pretended like it was a business by itself. And I had
Right.
my own receptionist organizational chart.
Mm-hmm.
And we got really great people from that, like
Mm-hmm. And people that stuck
Lorena,
around too. Yep.
the people who were there forever. I mean, I remember our receptionists just as well as I remember any of the top salespeople in our organization, because I spent a lot of time pouring into them. And again, we'll talk about retention
Right.
later on,
But
but I
yeah, when
think
there
it
when
all
there when
came from
someone
the
knows there's
vision.
opportunity for
Yeah.
growth, right? You knew like, oh wow, I could move up here, right? And I think you did a
Hmm.
great job when you did that, because Lorena started entry level, but knew there were opportunities to move up. There were opportunities to
Exactly.
be a recruiting manager, or assistant recruiting division, divisional manager above that, or, whatever it was. Like, you did a phenomenal job taking that over. I don't even think it was my intention to like go that detailed into the, receptionist program, but you did a phenomenal job. You built an unbelievable team with, double digit team that was helping, and people who were really committed and excited about the vision and where things were going. But again, I think that ties back to like, they knew that there was opportunities for them to move up. They weren't stuck. It wasn't stagnant, and
Hmm.
that makes a really big difference for people, for sure. All right. And so
And
I have a
that
question for you.
actually,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I,
oh
I
no,
was like, I
no,
have a
no.
question for you.
No, I was gonna say it does help us segue into the next thing, but just to comment on that, really quick, and it ties into like characteristics and other things we're gonna be talking about today. But I really honestly had no idea like just how big our receptionist team was. And I remember we were at some conference and I forget who came up to me. It was a division manager, but they're like, "Oh, how do you ran the largest receptionist team in the entire Eastern region?" And I was like 18 years old. I'm like, "I did? Wow, that's so
And
cool."
it was
And
the number
I had
one
no
recruiting
idea.
department, by the way. It was the number one recruiting department for our $250 million company, nationwide, like in North America. It was the number one department that you ran. Yeah. And you're like,
And
huh?
I had no idea. And to me, it was like, well, I'm just doing my job. I'm just, doing this.
Mhm.
But I think it all tied back. And it sounds so simple. Oh, writing, some names on a piece of paper, like some possible roles, but like just knowing that and then being able to share that with people every day, all the time,
Mhm.
really ties them into the organization. And if you can keep them, then you can grow your team. And we'll talk about that later. But anyway, you had a question.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that I get most, and I want to hear your thoughts, and we can kind of riff about this, is people say, well, I don't have, there's two things I hear a lot. One, where do I find good rewind? Number one, I don't have the money. Like, how do I find, like, I can't pay people $20, $30 an hour or more. How do I find good help when I'm on a budget and I'm a startup, right? I'm a startup, or we're just starting this department. I've never paid this before. So it's a new expense. And I'm not yet at the level where I have all this extra income, but I know that I need help in this role. And so people get stuck and they say, well, I can't hire because like I don't have the money to, right? Or I can't afford the good help, quote unquote, right? I think is a really big thing. And then let's say we say, okay, no, but we can. And it's like, well, where do I find them, right? Where do I find people that are good, that'll work for less? And I love talking about that with people, and it's so fun seeing that shift. But I'm curious for you, how you would respond to that, or what have you experienced with that too? Because even
Interns.
for yourself,
Interns, and not in a bad way, but I mean, interns are great for your business. Not
it's
you
a
can have
win-win. It's a win-win
it
on
is a
both ends.
win-win. They get experience, you get somebody who helps you, like help fill some gaps that maybe you're not meeting, maybe you're too short on time. But long term, I mean, you don't know where that intern can take you, like how tied in they're going to be into your organization. Maybe they grow with you and
Right.
stay with you for many years. But yeah, interns, or nowadays you can even hire help overseas for very cheap. So even
Mhm.
if you don't need to have thousands of dollars saved up for payroll in order to have great help, there's many resources where you can be paying as little as like $50 a week for just like 10 hours of help.
Yeah.
If somebody told me, hey, when I was like brand new, for $50 a week you can have 10 hours of help, I mean, that's amazing. So I would say interns, overseas help, is definitely a very good low cost or free way to go. You can even go to a university's career services center, talk to them about what your company does, what they offer, which
Mhm.
department head you might be able to talk to, and they can send out an email for you, as long as you can prove to them that you're a legitimate business, to get interns. And I actually did that with my social media agency back in 2017. Was
Mhm.
I signed up with a bunch of different universities to get a remote intern to help me do creative, help me do
Mhm.
copywriting, and help me push out some emails. And it was free, and they really, really enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, right on. I love, obviously, I worked with college kids for so long. That was a huge aspect, but I would say interns and mentees, right? Maybe you have somebody who's not a college student, they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. They want to go into a new space. Maybe they're transitioning from W-2 and they know they want to start their business, their marketing business or their social media business or
Mhm.
their whatever kind of business. And it's something that you need help with, saying, hey, I will mentor you for these and teach you the ins and outs of what needs to happen on this in basically your trading, your bartering, right? So I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to introduce you to people. We're going to give you opportunities, and if you did the right things, there could even be an opportunity for us for some partnership, right? Or to be able to create some extra business. And so there are, even right now, I have a friend who was a client of mine prior, and we were chatting, and she said, I created a whole mentorship program. She's like, and so now people that want to learn from me can either do it two ways. They can pay me 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, depending on what it is and program she has, they can pay me, or they can intern for me. They can be one of
Oh,
my,
that's cool.
they can be in my mentorship program. And what happens is I work with them and they help me close, the first blank amount of deals. As soon as they close these deals, I pay them out a certain amount. And once they get to that number, whether it's 3, 5, 10, like she has different tiers, but she's like, once they've helped close these clients, or and I've seen this in real estate with houses, with this, I've seen different versions of this. But she said, once they help me close, 5 new clients, I pay them $5,000, or I pay them 20, depending on, again, what tier it is, what type of client. But instead, and that a lot of people love that, right? And so there's your free help, and you're not paying out until they hit blank level of new clients, new closes. So what do you now have? The funds to pay them, right? Because you're setting it typically around giving them 10%, typically. Sometimes it could be more or less, but let's just say the product, whatever you're selling is $5,000, that's $500, per person close. And if you're saying, hey, as soon as you close your first 5, I'm paying you $2,500. So you got free help. And really it was completely a net profit because you weren't paying up front. It's like, oh, I don't have the funds to pay pay it. No, you got mentees. They helped you close more deals. You coach them on the whole process. They're getting free coaching, free training that they should be paying you thousands of dollars, but they're making you thousands of dollars.
Right.
And then you're going back and going, hey, thank you, boom. And it's like a finder's fee, but you're paying them a solid amount for having learned from you. Like you pay universities freaking tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. And it's a lot of it is book knowledge, right? And it's great, but there's a difference between the book knowledge and the actual practical application of that knowledge, right? Like you can read all the damn books on how to be a great parent when those kids come out, but you don't have to know, and every kid is different, right? Like sleep training says this, my kid's like, F you, I'm not doing that shit. I'm like,
yeah,
like,
sleep training. That doesn't exist.
Like one worked great with this, the other one no, right? My friend told me that too. The first one they were teaching like sign language. I'm going off topic, but whatever. And like teaching the kids how to be like, oh, more, oh, thank you, or whatever. And my first son, he totally like 7 months, he was on that, man. We couldn't believe it. And he'd ask for things and signing. My kid, my second, we try that every time I do something, he smacks my hands. He's like, I don't give a shit what you're saying. Like, no go. And I remember a friend of mine saying that. She's like, our first sign language was amazing. They were able to, because they can communicate cognitively before they can verbally. And so she's the one that had told me about it years ago. But I remember her saying too, her second, she's like, nope, different kid, didn't want it, so anyway. I think that with the mentor, back to mentorship and mentees, interns, things like this, you're getting that real world experience is what they're getting. They're not just reading the books. They're not like, oh, here's the checklist of what to do. And you're like, I know how to do this. No, you freaking don't till you do it and get your ass handed to you or your teeth kicked in. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know how to handle that objection. Oh, how about when they do this? How about when this comes up, right? And so now by having that real world experience, that's where the confidence builds to be a kick-ass executor of whatever it is you're going out to do, right? So big believer in mentorship programs. Interns with colleges, like you said, are huge. And don't forget this. I had a client actually, Lou, last year that I had told, because she's like, where do I find, this is a question I get all the time, right? Where do I find great talent for cheap? Like, I don't know that exists, right? If it's cheap, they're probably not that good, because if they're good, they're charging more. And I said, college students.
Right.
What? I said, college students that want to learn, or someone who's hungry to learn and they don't have the money to pay a high level coach, and they'll mentor with you, right? But I said, she's like, well, what do I do with the college? And I had another friend of mine recently ask me the same thing. And I said, pull up the Atlanta schools, where I was talking to Dr. Rachel. And I said, pull up the schools. I said, there is a section on every university where employers can post jobs. And she's like, what? And I said, pull up the Savannah Art Institute, pull up. I said, you have great designers, graphic designers, you have like all these people that go to school for these things, and they need real life experience. They need to put it on their resume, but it's also how they develop, as professionals. And she was like, mind blown. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, and you can pay them, but you don't have to pay them the money you'd be paying an expert that's a professional. You're paying them a solid either minimum wage or a little bit above, or you can do bonus. Like, you structure however you want. They need the experience. And most students today can't graduate without having done an internship, because they want to see real world application of the knowledge that they've attained.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I love that. So just to recap that, we talked about interns, we talked about bartering, like maybe somebody who wants to learn your business and you giving them that instead of them paying you to coach them, they can work with you.
Yeah, we talked about those mentorship programs.
Exactly. And then cheap labor overseas, via college students or overseas. Now, so you plan to get people, now you know how to get people. And then the golden question everybody has always asked us, which is, how do you identify, that core person who can be you essentially when you're gone? And then the second half of that, which is, how do you know which characteristics to look for in people when you're hiring them? And I know those are two different answers, but those are the last two. I think those are the last two things that I think we can fit here to explore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you have anything you want to share on that in terms of finding the core person, or you want me to take that?
I mean, I'll start off, because I've actually gotten the question in reverse, where people have come to me and said, like, how do you work so well with Kathy, and how are you guys able to form this good working relationship where you feel confident enough to operate when she's gone? Yeah, and then I've also had people ask me like, how do I find my core person later on when I was hiring for a core person. So I think with Kathy and I think first of all, you have to enjoy the person who's going to be like your right hand person. If you can't enjoy spending time with them, then you have the wrong one. And it doesn't matter if they are literally the best person for the job
If you don't
on
like to be
paper.
around them.
If you, I can tell you from experience because Kathy has actually hired my right hand person for me 2 times in the past, and I made both of those boys cry because they were just the wrong person. And by the way, we're still great till this day. I hit them up every once in a while. We still talk, but it was just such a personality mismatch that it was never going to work. It just never was. And I think with Kathy and I think our personalities matched. In certain areas, like I can make up for what you lack and vice versa. So those things made a good partnership. So when choosing your core person, I would almost liken it to trying to find a partner in life. Like, you know, somebody who makes up for the things that you lack, somebody who can tolerate you, you enjoy being around them. That's honestly like however you would write down my ideal partner for life, like that should almost be your ideal business partner. And that's why I also think it's funny going back to like our other podcast from last week when people are like to work or not to work with your spouse. Like if the answer is not yes, maybe you need a new spouse. Because it should be easy like that. And then I guess my thought
it
on
always takes work. It always takes work. It always takes,
oh yeah,
communication, right? But it's someone that you want to figure it out with. It's someone that
right,
you want to communicate with, right? I think you
yeah.
nailed the nail on the head there. You know,
I
like
mean,
the straight.
I never didn't like not want to work with you. As frustrated as we'd ever get with each other, I never
As
was
you'd
like,
get with me.
right. Well, and
I love
let's be
you.
honest, you got with me as well at times, especially because when I like um well, I feel like we had 3 different working relationship lives. Like in Miami, in Florida, you know, I was young. I would kind of just listen to whatever anybody would tell me to do. And then when I went out to run my own office, I kind of got my balls and I became a big B word. And I was like a different person to manage in Texas than I was in Florida. And, you know, I feel like in Florida, it was just a different person. So I feel like we've gone through like different phases of working with each other, but I never didn't not want to work with you. And I don't feel like you ever didn't not want to work with me either. I was never like, well, and even at the time when I left the business, it was nothing to do with like our working relationship, more just like my time at that company had ended. And I think that defining, you know, characteristic, however you can characterize that, that made me feel like we were right to work with each other. And like later on, I had one of our top guys, John Austin, as my dom in my office, and I knew that it was going to be really easy and great to work with him because he made up for things in me that I lacked and vice versa. But we also really enjoyed just like hanging out and talking with each other. And during COVID, being in a remote environment where you're not in the office every day and it's hard to build that personal connection, like just being able, like I could sit with him on Zoom for 60 minutes and, you know, not be bored. And to me, that's a very telling sign of somebody that I would really enjoy working with and having in my organization. So what was it for you? What was it for you, like picking me or choosing people for different positions?
So now you're going to hear the flip side of it. So you nailed 2 big factors, but I never intentionally said like, you know, when I met you at 17 years old, 13 years ago, like I didn't go, ooh, she's going to be my lead person, right? I wasn't like pulling you in to be my lead person. And so I think that for me, the process of like, how do you find that lead person is I'm constantly watching the guys that I'm working with. I'm looking at the people on my team, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see, who do I really get along with? who do I love spending a lot of time with, right? Like who has strengths that complement my strengths? And so you nailed all of that. But that's like, as they're working with me, I'm like evaluating, I'm really looking, and I'm very intentional. I'm like, ooh, I just love, I could hang out with this person all day. And then I start pouring more time into them. And hey, have you ever thought about this? Or have you thought about being in a lead position or managing this department? Because I think you'd really do a great job with that, and just let it be, right? Like planting those seeds, that these seeds of possibility start growing inside. Like, I never thought about that. Kind of cool, whatever. And I think that people then like rise up, because then later when you have that combo of like, hey, I'm looking to build out this department, I'm looking for someone to lead, and I think that you can be that person. Or as we're growing now, I'm looking for a right hand. I'm looking for an operator that can actually crush this, that when I'm out or I'm traveling, I'm with the family, I'm speaking, that you can run this seamlessly, or even better than I can when I'm gone, right? And I think that you can be that person. And so I think it's just, really being intentional, being aware of people around you, and those are, you nail the things I look for. Like, do I actually like spending time with this person? Obviously, are they capable to do the job, right? Like,
Oh
they
yeah,
need
of course, of course.
I just want to throw that out there too. Like, you need to make sure someone can do the job. And then, do their, what strengths do they have that support mine, and vice versa, and how can we grow together? And I think that's really what I looked at, when I was looking at things there, in terms of being in the right spot. In terms of how do you put the right people in the right seats? Because later,
Right.
we'll talk about the importance of that in terms of longevity. But just in general, starting off, I think it's really important to just identify what it is that you want and or need in that role. So I'm like, I'm going to need them. Like, what are the deliverables they're going to have, right? Like, I'm going to need reports, and I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that. What type of personality do I want this person to have? And a great example of this would be, I actually won't say names. I know people will be listening to this, people will figure it out. But, I had somebody, somebody that was in our office, that she was just super people person, super butterfly, like love to talk to everybody, love to do stuff. And putting that person in a position where, hey, I need you to do reports, run this, do inventory, create the team meeting PowerPoint, stuff like that. Like, that would kill her. Like, that killed her personality. And like, a lot of shit just wasn't going to get done. And be like, hey, is this done? It's like, oh yeah, I got to get back to that, because we were talking about a story from Saturday and whatever happened here and here, right? And so they're just more of a social butterfly. So they love to talk. That personality is not who I want doing my administrative work, right? Or things
Right.
with
Yeah.
her, like, so knowing that, like, that personality is what I want running interviews. I want that personality like engaging with new clients or representatives, sales, like that's who I need in that role. Because you can put the right person in the wrong role and completely kill their soul. They're just like, that's not what they want to be doing, right? At the same time, we had another young lady that worked with us, and she loved working. You give her lists, do this, so that she could sit in an office and work behind the scenes all day. And she was like, boom, 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 boom. And you could have people around her, and she's just in the zone. And then it's like, hey, she's like, I got this done, this done, this done, this, and just so productivity, driven through lists. But like, that was her strong suit. So that is someone I wanted taking care of all the things that had immediate deadlines, PowerPoints, order this, order that, make sure we have whatever inventory we need. And she crushed it in that, and then it was working to develop other strengths of hers, which she ended up doing phenomenal with. But had I put her initially being the main person interacting with the people, and she might have quit, because that wasn't her, like, her makeup, right? Her personality was more behind the scenes support, lists, checks, anything that had to do with organization, lists, ordering, like Excel spreadsheets were her jam, right? And like the other girl would be like, oh, like that's the furthest thing from like what would be her jam, right? So just knowing, I think it's important once you have, so we talked about in the beginning, the vision, right? And so you have your departments, you have the roles you want to fill. Take time to identify, what do I need and want in that role? What kind of personality, what kind of strengths do they have? What type of actual, the know-how, right? What skill sets do they have? What skill sets, do I need in this role? Because then when I'm running interviews, I'm looking to see, do they have them, right? Does this person match? Or are they someone who's easily coachable? Is it something simple to teach, or do they have that, right? Like if I'm hiring someone to do my bookkeeping and accounting, I want to know they have experience doing that and they love numbers. If someone's like, oh, I hate numbers, and I'm like, I'll teach you though, I'll teach you, no, hell no, I don't want that person in that, in that position. So anyway, just taking time to really look at, what does that role entail? what's the best personality. And by the way, guys, there's so many different personality tests, and I'm sure in future episodes we'll interview a couple different people to hear, because whether it's Myers-Briggs or, you know, we loved CVI, Core Values Index, or you're using the, you know, the DISC profile, what Myers-Briggs, there's Enneagram and tons of other things, right?
So many.
Yeah, just being aware around, one, knowing that people are all wired different, right? And then knowing what type of wiring is needed for that specific role. And if you're looking and hiring in that way, you're going to be a lot happier. They're going to be a lot happier, you know, because I caught myself like, why are they doing their job? Why? Well, it was my fault. I put them doing something that is just not their personality or skill set, right? Like naturally. And so it was really hard for them to stay focused versus the other person loved that stuff. So like so much got done without me even checking in. And when I come check in, like, oh, done. I'm like, oh, cool. Right. And so that's really important, because if not, you're beating. And I remember being that younger manager who was like, why don't they freaking get their stuff done? Why don't it? And it's like, my fault. I put them in the wrong place. Right. So we've got to look at ourselves on that, I think is really important to do that matchup. So sorry, I went kind of long on that, but
No. I think that was all great information, because, you know, I definitely feel like that a lot of people hire somebody, like you said in the beginning, that they think is great, but then when they don't get the job done, they get frustrated. And it's just understanding what you need from each role. And as someone who's worked in corporate recruiting, I would say just my little bit on recruiting people is, you know, you want to be specific, but you also don't want to have like preconceptions that would prevent you from hiring somebody great because they don't have what you need right now. Because what if they have a great personality, somebody you get along with? What if they have all the characteristics of somebody you need in that department, but the actual hard skill set, maybe they have about 60% of it? I think you can ask yourself, am I willing to teach them the other 40% to help them get to where I need to be because they are great? Or am I just looking for a unicorn? And just know that, you know, it is hard to find perfect matches. So I would say what you want to have non-negotiables on, have it be things that, like, things you absolutely cannot stand, not things that you absolutely cannot teach. Because if you can teach them, teach them. You know?
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready to segue into just some fun questions to wrap up our podcast.
Sounds good. Yeah, I had one more thought, and I totally just blanked that I was going to share with this, but I know. With you were saying, like, with the flexibility and stuff. So one of the things that I didn't say that I always add on when I'm working with clients is, if you do enter, because I had a client last year, she's like, how about, like, I found this person, I interviewed them and they're like freaking amazing, but the role I'm hiring for, like, is not the right role for them according to everything you and I just went through. Like, what do I do? Like, I want them here. I think they could help me build my business, just not in that way. I said, then you create a new role for them. I said, if there's someone that you meet and you're like, I need to have this person here, make a title for them. You can make them the VP of fun, all right, for all that matters. And, like, you know that they're going to be great at culture. We can do that. And you can sit and brainstorm together what are all the different ways that they can help support the quality of, you know, the culture in the office, quality of work, you know, fun, but also with production, right? It's not just a party, but like, how can we make it so that people are enjoying their time and they're the VP of fun, right? Like, it could be as silly as that, but like, that's a real thing, right? So keep that in mind too, that if you do meet somebody great, you know, those two aspects, one, like Mary Lou was saying, like, know what are the musts, and then what could I teach if I really like this person? Or you can also create a role for them and really see how they can bring value to your organization so that it is helping retain people or create more sales or create more clients or whatever it might be. So we'll chat more about that. But anyway, bring on the fun. You're the fun.
No, I feel like I want people to get to know us over the next few weeks. So I want to just start asking some fun questions at the end. This is totally prompted by me, by the way. Anyway, So what's your favorite, not comfort food, but I know you like pizza, I know you like tacos, I know you like wine. Think of the feeling that those things give you.
I didn't have pizza last night. I gotta say this though. I didn't have pizza last night, and I was craving it at like 10:30 at night.
I have pizza.
I want pizza, and my husband goes, "We don't have pizza." I was like, "You really want me to order a pizza right now? Like, you're about to go to sleep. We got to wake up early. We got to go to the gym." I said, I didn't say we had to order pizza. He's like, what? I'm like, we can make pizza toast. He's like, oh my God, how old are you? I did this with my son. And we like grab piece of bread and we put some tomato sauce and put shredded cheese. And so I had pizza toast last night and I was so happy. So yeah, love it. But anyway, we're not talking about food. What were you saying?
Well, and just to say, I did have pizza yesterday. We have pizza parties here where the kids sit at the table and I give them flour, all the ingredients, and we make it all together. But
awesome.
we should do that when you guys come into town with the kids. It'll be fun.
Yes.
But anyway, so what's your favorite movie or TV show that you watch whenever you need to pick me up? Like the movie or show that gives you the pizza feeling. You know what I mean?
Okay. Genre is what I think of first, which is rom-coms. Like,
Okay.
they just make my heart so happy. So, series right now, Emily in Paris, and I can't wait for season 4.
I love Emily in Paris. I love that show. That's a good one.
So cute. And Bridgerton's coming out. I already told my aunt that Christmas Day, after all the things, we're just binge watching Bridgerton.
I might get hate for it. I did not get into Bridgerton, and let me tell you, I love Shonda Rhimes shows because my comfort TV shows are that I've watched backwards, forwards, and literally each one at least 4 times are One Tree Hill. I've seen the whole series about maybe 5 or 6 times. Gilmore Girls, like I can have that running in the background, and Grey's Anatomy. Those 3 shows, those are my go-tos. Okay, so for you, rom-com, you said Emily in Paris. Do you have any movies? Because I just have shows.
I can't think of any recent, but definitely in high school, my comfort movie, anytime I like wasn't feeling good or I had cramps or I was sad, I would play the modern Romeo and Juliet that Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio did back in the 90s. And I freaking love it. And now I'm like, I need to watch that tonight. I love it.
Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, I mean that's a good one. I guess you like the deeper things than I do, but I liked I used to watch like on repeat any Will Ferrell movie. I mean,
that's
of course,
my sister.
like
Michelle loves Will Ferrell.
That's oh my God, favorite. Love Will Ferrell. But you know who else I used to love when I was younger was Anna Faris, and I used to love that movie House Bunny that she did about her as a house mom in a sorority house. I would pee in my pants and laugh watching that. Like I would watch it late night, can't sleep. What do I watch? House Bunny.
I like all the corny sad shit. Lovey,
the what?
Lovey. I said the corny, lovey, sad shit.
Oh yeah. Actually, you got me into, I remember when we were living together, we got into This Is Us, and then you would make me watch all these romantic movies like Age of Adeline, and I would just fall asleep.
All right. Enough making fun of me. Did you have another funny question for me, or are we ready to roll?
I did have one more, but I wasn't making fun of you. I was just appreciating our differences. If your life had a theme song, what would it be and why?
I don't know that I say why, but I definitely want to play it for you. Someone asked me this. I was on a mission trip in Haiti. Eric Gilman, if you're listening, shout out to you. We were having a get to know each other. Like we had all the volunteers that went to Haiti, and we went around the table. Every meal that we had together, someone else would go, and the game was you ask a question and everybody has to answer it. That was the game, right? And you could ask whatever the heck you wanted. Some people would like, would you rather? Some people, it was like really serious. Some people it was not. And one of the guys said, if your life was a movie and you had a theme song and every time you walked in, it played, what would it be? And I was like, I didn't know the name then, but I know the name now. It's Danza Kuduro. If you've heard it before, we gotta see if we get to the.
Put it a little louder. Closer to the mic. Put it on the other side of the background thing. Oh no, we can't hear it.
But we might have to just edit it in, like you just
dun,
need
dun,
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 because I love
dun,
dancing
dun,
and like that's just because it makes my hips makes all the things so happy. That's why.
Love it.
I love to dance.
Well, I don't think I have a theme song, like a song that represents my life, but a song that I really love. Actually, fun fact, it was the father-daughter song at my wedding was sweet child of mine. I mean, I feel like if you put a reel of my life on a big screen and you had that playing in the background, it would match. So that's what I would say.
I
Yeah.
love it.
But anyway, I feel like this was a really great, our first like meaty episode of like content that we really like to put out there. So I'm happy.
I'm glad you're happy. Well, let us
Thank you.
know in the comments, like biggest takeaways, like we want to hear what's helpful, but not only biggest takeaways, also questions you guys have. That's going to help and shape and mold future episodes. So shoot the questions at us, whether it's on social media or you're shooting it on our YouTube, on here, wherever you're listening. Make sure you guys get in touch with us because we want to know what you want to know more of, what's helping you and what you want more of. So that would be my little plug here, is to make sure that you're letting us know.
Yeah, and if you want to find us and you're not sure how, we actually just launched our website, goalsgreatnessunleashed.com. There's tons of information on there on stuff we're putting out, but our email is also on there, which is goalsgreatnessunleashed@gmail.com. So you can reach us
and
on
our
there.
socials are on there too.
Absolutely. You can find us on there, and we will see you next week.